allow me to interrupt.
Yeah.
Putin started playing a very dangerous game, the game of power. The stakes are incredibly high. The absolute power, is a precious, the ring of power. And Putin had it for a very long time. But you can't win that game. The power always wins over you. Okay, and then once you lose power, then you lose your life. This is the highest stake.
Hello everybody, today I once again have a special guest in the show, Konstantin Samoilov. His YouTube channel is called Inside Russia. Konstantin is an unusual Russian. And despite his channel is called Inside Russia, Konstantin is reporting from outside, from his exile. He's decoding Russia because he had to flee from Russia right after the start of the war against Ukraine. Konstantin recently had also some really cruel experiences, as he told. We will talk about this all later personally. Hello, Konstantin. Great having you here.
Christoph, thank you for having me. Howdy. Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. Howdy. Yeah, that's true. I am here in Germany, and I'd like to introduce also myself to the audience. My name is Christoph Müller, and I am supporting Ukraine and democracy with my YouTube channel, Talk for Ukraine. Please also subscribe and consider to become a channel member. That would be great. Konstantin, let me ask you the first question. Something has changed in the Russian propaganda, and Putin's utterings in the recent time have changed. All of a sudden we hear from Putin that the war might come to an end. And he even suggested his buddy, the German ex-chancellor Gerhard Schröder, as an intermediary. What's going on there?
Chaos. What's going on is chaos. Putin is losing control over the situation in Russia. His actions are becoming more and more tactical, and he is trying to survive. And now it is very visible. It's out there in the open. And before, it was behind the curtain of the Kremlin politics. Right now, everyone is seeing that. They're not trying to hide it. They don't have any energy or resources to hide it. Okay, they don't care anymore. They're just trying to survive. And Putin is fighting for his life, basically. Answering your question about the end of the war, everyone in Russia was like, what?
Yeah.
End of the war on what conditions? Define. What do you consider the end of the war? With Donbass, without Donbass. Russian troops remain in Ukraine. Russian troops pulling back into Russia. What is the end of the war? And Putin just doesn't clarify.
It's always so funny to me that people are listening what Putin says, and when he says end of the war, yeah, end of the war is close, instead of looking behind the scenes that this might be, as all the time, just another maneuver of Putin to distract people from the reality, or he has something else in mind, or as you said, chaos. It's not possible to hide this chaos, but in our last episode, or episodes, we have been talking all and over again about the collapse of Russia, about the end of Russia. So this chaos is becoming worse. Do you see the physical end of Putin coming here?
I do. I have stated in my live streams, in my videos, that the end is nearing. I don't want you to quote me on that, but I think I have a gut feeling that Putin is not going to survive this upcoming summer. Mm-hmm. Well, he might survive physically, but he's not going to survive as the president of Russia, or at least a person with full control of Russia, as he still has now. So it's coming.
So the power in the hands of Putin is really gliding out of his hands. But you just said he would perhaps survive this, but his presidency would not survive. But to me, this seems to be one and the same. If he is not president anymore, they will kill him somewhere. Well, there's no use for Putin
Somehow, yes, you're right. And it's such an easy target for anyone who comes and replaces Putin, because he can blame everything on Putin. Okay, it's Putin's fault. Putin is the enemy. Putin is the German spy. Putin is a traitor, Putin is this and that. And Putin was recruited by German intelligence while he was serving there in 1986 or whatever. I'm just giving you wild guesses, but this is what they're going to do. Yes, I think that Putin will not. He knows. I mean, look at the images of him sitting at the parade a few days ago, and I made a live stream about that yesterday, and I specifically found pictures. I made screenshots, and all you have to do is you have to look at his face. You have to look at the faces of Volodin, Shoigu, Medvedev, Patriarch Kirill. Everything is written on their faces. But what I meant, he might still have partial control over Russia because we don't know how the political collapse will happen. He might still control parts of Russia. There might be a civil war in Russia. There might be just one swift action in form of a coup, something like that. We can't predict it. No one can. But if he still has some control over Russia or over the situation, he probably will still be alive. But if he loses control, then he's not going to last long.
He's not going to last long. This would be...
Well, that's a harsh reality. I'm sorry. I'm being honest.
I mean, he did so much damage to his own country, to the world. He so many hundreds of thousands and millions of people are dead because of him. So also to me, it would be a big win to the world if this guy would be gone. But
Christoph, allow me to interrupt. Yeah. Putin started playing a very dangerous game, the game of power. The stakes are incredibly high. The absolute power, is precious, the ring of power. And Putin had it for a very long time. But you can't win that game. The power always wins over you. Okay? And then once you lose power, then you lose your life. This is the highest stake at this game. And, there's not much to discuss here. Putin is not the first, he's not the last.
Yeah, recently I had an interview with Jonathan Fink, and he said that he predicted also that this would be the end. I asked Jonathan the same question: will Putin may have a victory parade in the next year? Jonathan's answer was no. So absolutely, so sure, no Putin in any victory parade in 2027. Impossible. So Putin will be gone. We think this, but the big question is who will be next? Who will be the next successor? Who will lead this Russian country, or will the whole Russian country cease to exist? What's your take on that?
Impossible to answer. Impossible. Absolutely.
Do you want to hear Jonathan's answer?
Well, let me give you my answer. The situation will start heating, the stinky substance will start heating the fan. And from that point, it's going to be situational, okay? No one is planning for, perhaps even if they're planning, people's planning for a successor, it's not going to go according to the plan. Remember how Putin rose to power. Did anyone hear about Putin before summer of 99? Very few people. He was a minor political player. He was the head of FSB, but it was just not a power player. He was just a minor figure on a chessboard. And all of a sudden, boom! In a few months, he's prime minister, and then 3 months he's the president. A similar thing will happen. If anyone tells you that such person would be a successor, and I would not. I suggest you don't believe. What did Jonathan say?
I mean, Jonathan said that the next successor will be a fake democratic figure. It would be some probably even a woman. So to get the democratic states in the country, in the world on your side, to do business again with the democratic world, and and everybody here in the West would think, yeah, wow, finally Russia became democratic. That's it. That was also what we said here in Germany and in the West when there was Boris Yeltsin in the beginning.
91,
yes, and then right, and then Putin. They all the time tried to also see some democratic figure, but as you and I know, Putin was just a KGB operation, and that's why. And I'm also reading now a very interesting book by Yuri Stinky about the KGB and about the secret services of Russia, and so it's very probable to me that the next strong man or strong person in Russia would be just another KGB operation, because they don't want to get rid of power. They cling on power. They have so many structures everywhere in Russia. You know better than I.
They certainly do. But you know what? The KGB of the USSR was a much stronger organization, much healthier organization. Healthier in terms of its structure, because they were not motivated by money. They couldn't have money. They only could have power and the perks that came with power. In other words, the KGB general could not steal a company and own assets in Russia and abroad. Now they can, okay?
Yeah.
So, so that makes me believe that the KGB was a much stronger organization. And you know what? They didn't want to give up power. They wanted to hang on to power, and in 3 days, they disintegrated, because the KGB did not exist for 3 years, for 2.5 years. Okay, it was broken into 2 parts, and one was, and they were called differently. And then only after 2.5 years, they started slowly rebuilding old KGB. You know, they called it FSK, and then, you know, the FSB. But anyway, I agree that they don't want to give up power, but that's not going to be in their control. Perhaps it might not be in their control. If they stage a power transfer and everything goes according to their plan, yeah, then you're right. Is it possible? Yes. Probable? There is a certain probability, but in this world, everything is a matter of probability, higher or lower probability, right? I don't believe that the next successor, that whoever comes after Putin, will be a KGB officer, but we'll see. I could be wrong. And the thing is, Jonathan Fink did not give you a name.
No, of course not. He said
whoever gives you a name
Ksenia
doesn't know
Sobchak
what they're saying.
Yeah, this name Ksenia Sobchak, for example, was called by Jonathan, the daughter of Anatoly Sobchak. What's his name? Anatoly, the first mayor of St. Petersburg. But anyway,
I can't imagine her being at the helm of Russia, in the seat of the president. She is so toxic. She's such a propagandist. She's so hated, universally hated in Russia. Then I just don't.
Okay.
Know. And would not be my take. But I can tell you one thing. Whoever comes after Putin, we don't know his name now. That's going to be a person absolutely in the shadows currently, and they're going to bring that person out of the shadow and place at the helm of Russia.
But let's get back a step once more, because we are speaking now so enthusiastically about the end of Putin and who's coming next. But we also know that Putin always, when he's in the corner, he escalates somehow new. So there is another possibility for Putin to escalate. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean that he will somehow start a new front, a new war against NATO, to attack a Baltic country, for example. And I discussed with my community, and the people seem not to believe this. They think he's so occupied in Ukraine, impossible to start a new operation in another theater. What's your take on that? Do you think it's possible that he will do this?
It's very possible. I mean, imagine you're Putin. Imagine you're sitting in the big chair in the Kremlin, and all Russian armed forces take your orders, and you have so many, well, over 1 million people fighting in Ukraine, in the Western Front, but you also have around 1 million people, armed forces personnel scattered throughout Russia. I mean, supposedly you want to take Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, geographically not large countries. Okay, so can you do that? Well, of course, you announce the war, and you put conscripts, that the soldiers that are conscripted into the army, not the professionals, but were drafted, and you just give them order, and they must obey the order. They must move into the 3 countries. Now, it's possible for him to attack, and I think it's fairly easy. What happens next is a big question. I think that he might try only if he sees and understands that this is it. There are people with torches marching towards him. Okay? He knows that in the next week, 3 days, 5 days, whatever, he's done. Okay? So there are no more moves left. He might try that. Or, worse, he might try to launch a nuclear strike. Then he's cornered when he has nothing to lose. Hey, I'm going to go in a couple days. I'm going to go in 5 minutes. Then might as well go with a bang. That's what I am personally more concerned about. Because at this point, he can start the war with NATO. But can he fight it?
Of course not.
I don't think so.
I absolutely agree with you.
The Ukrainians are pushing in the Ukrainian front. They can't even hold the positions of a current position. What NATO? Okay, what war with NATO? That'd be absolutely crazy. Would it buy him a week of time, a couple of weeks, perhaps a month? It might. But we'll understand, that would be it.
For him, it's always about dealing time. I don't know this word in English well, just getting more time. And, I think also that Putin wants to survive the next year, 2 years, and I see a very dangerous development in the Western countries here in Western Europe, in Germany, in France. As you just saw in England, in Great Britain, the pro-Russian parties, they are rising here for some weird reasons. Because Putin is militarily very, very weak, but on the propaganda front, he is really strong. Those Russians, with their disinformation, they are able to poison all our public information space, and that's why the people here are so confused, and they are voting the AfD because of migration and because of Arabic infiltration, and that's why it can happen that we get an AfD government in the next election here in Germany. And in France, they would get Marine Le Pen or this Jordan Bardella or the English. So if there would be no support, and the Americans, they have Donald Trump. This is the worst nightmare for me. And so if Putin would survive the next 2 years, then there would be no support for Ukraine anymore, and then the game would be another one. What do you think?
Now we are stepping in the territory of what if. I don't believe that Putin will survive 2 years. You're describing a very dark scenario. Is it possible? Yes. How probable? Not probable. Probability is low. I agree with what Putin has excelled in is creating the propaganda system that is very strong, very effective, and it's working all over the world. Heck, you started this live stream by saying that I've been having personal problems. That's a direct result of Russian propaganda machine working against me. They've declared the war on me personally. Okay,
Wow.
it's me against Russian propaganda. I know very well how they work, trust me.
Wow, wow, wow.
And I'm not the only one. They are like an octopus. They're spreading all over the world. There is one problem for them, and that problem is money. They need to be financed because people sell their souls for money.
Right.
Once money dries up, and money has dried up in Russia, okay, they still have financing for this year. Next year, I'm not so sure. And especially if Putin is replaced by someone this year, then they gonna change the financing of the propaganda. I am pretty sure of that. What there is a possible problem for you, for European countries and the Western countries in general, is that it's a mind virus. And
Right.
Putin is planting this mind virus into your heads right now. Now, what happens with this virus inside your heads, that no one can tell. It might grow and develop into something ugly, or you might turn out to be good-hearted, logical, and simply have strong political and social and good-valued immune system that will simply kill the virus. But I think not me or you or anyone else can say that, how it's going to turn out. America is actually ahead of everyone else because America is under great attack and under great stress, not from Russia, but from itself. And it's undergoing the stress test. And we're going to see how America plays out. And of course, there are many possible scenarios and many milestones coming up. The elections in November, the next presidential elections, and so forth. If America can heal from what it is now, then there's hope for all of us. And if it gets worse, well, I I don't know what to tell you in that case.
This was brilliant for how you described it now. America is many times going ahead of everyone, and what will happen in America will happen next in the other countries around the world. As long as America is the superpower, the leading nation. So they are really under attack. And this other image of mind virus, what you said, I liked also very much, because it's a disease. And a virus can only be killed with really strong medication, with antibiotics. And we have in the West, we have to change our immune system first, but we have also really use strong medication. And this strong medication we cannot continue as we have been working the whole last decades. So I have some recipe on the information side in my mind, but when I tell this to my fellow people, they say, oh, you are a dictator, this is impossible. What I mean, we should really change our information, our public television, our public information sphere, because our opponents, they are also using public television to spread lies. So we must use public television to not just to say that's one opinion, that's the other opinion. Yeah, everybody can make up his own mind. I think we have to use the public television. Okay, but let's get back.
I'll continue. Well, first of all, you are playing by the rules. Your system, your country, your people, and they are playing covertly, not by the rules, on your turf, against you, changing you. Okay, that's I think that's what you're trying to say. And then the second thing is, you're right. And well, Christoph, you are a medicine because you have a voice and thousands of people listen to you and you give them ideas. And the best medicine is common sense, logic, and thinking.
Right.
And this is what you try to do. You try to make people use this medicine.
Right.
Okay? Because the solution is born here and here. This is it. Don't look at TV, don't look at internet, whatever. It's in your head, in your heart. First, hopefully in your heart, that's the system of values. Then in your head, that's logic, common sense, but they listen to your heart, to your values, okay? And this is it. This is you.
But how
you have
often,
your audience in Germany, in the Western world.
but
you know,
how
so you're
Konstantin,
working on it.
how often have you already told this logic to people and they seem not to understand it? This is so weird to me to speak to my cousin who is going to vote for the AfD, and she's convinced by this, because an image which is in your heart, in your mind, it's so difficult to change this, even impossible, it seems to me. That's, yeah.
Well, wait a second. No, wait a second.
Okay.
How do you know how many people you have actually changed? How many people you have made to start thinking? Do you know?
Of course not. I don't know.
Of course not. But I tell you what, if there's one person who you changed, influenced, who you, at least started this process of thinking, you gave a different angle. It all starts with hearing different angles and looking and say, wait a second, this guy has a good idea. I should start thinking about it. And if you influenced at least one person, that the job you're doing is worth it. Okay, so
thank you so much.
I think you're
telling that.
underestimating yourself.
I love how you
Don't forget about that.
I love your encouragement. This is really, really very, very valuable, and this makes me think.
At this point, we can ask your audience, folks. You're watching us right now. Let us know in the comments, and obviously Christoph will be looking at his comments on his channel, and I will also look at this interview. Let us know and tell us if Christoph has changed the way you think, the way you look at things, if he has influenced you, if he has touched you. Because to us creators, the feedback is the most precious thing. That
true.
motivates us. Okay, if we know that we change people, we keep on going. We have like wings grow behind our backs. So please let us know down below in the comments.
Oh wow, this is so amazing talking to you now, Konstantin, because you are a very experienced creator and you have a very large audience from Tashkent. Also, the last time we spoke about that you have been demonetized by YouTube, which is a horror scenario, which is very bad. And despite that, you carry on. So it's not because of money; it's because of it's in your heart. And I also don't do this for money. Konstantin, I also want to ask you about your personal experience. Let us please know what happened there. What did they do to you? If you want to talk about that.
One of my best friends, childhood friends in Russia, is an attorney, a brilliant attorney in Russia. And when I started making my first videos, and I openly started criticizing Putin, being in Russia, okay, in Russian turf, and I reached out and I said, I sought for legal advice. I asked my friend, look, what do you think they can do to me? And he told me back in 2022, he said, you know what, we don't have any laws. They can do anything they want. The problem, for you, it's just you have to be a threat to them. They will only move against you when they feel you're a threat. So right now, probably you have very few subscribers, small audience. Most likely, you're going to be off the radar. But then if you get so many viewers, so many views, then you get on the radar, and most likely, and then they can do anything. And that's exactly what happened.
No.
I got big enough, and I started stepping on the feet of Russia Today, because we discussed this propaganda machine working outside Russia for the Western audience, for the world audience, in Latin America, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, in China, and there's a huge machine. But then here come I, Konstantin, just one guy sitting in front of the camera and reaching 120 million people. That's my audience. So many times people watched my videos. And I speak from my heart. I don't do it for money.
Of course
They do it for money. Okay? There are tens of thousands of highly skilled professionals in Russia, outside Russia. They're all financed by Putin, by his federal budget. Okay, right now in 2026, the budget for Russian propaganda has been increased by 7.5%, and it's the highest in the history of Russia. Okay, so there's a huge, well-oiled by money machine, and this is me by myself, demonetized by Google. How ironic is that? But I made the splash big enough so they started noticing me. And I started basically, I tell people the truth, and that started interfering with their lies. So they started following me here. In Uzbekistan, personally, I am followed by the secret police. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. It's very scary. It's probably the scariest thing,
I guess,
when you notice an officer following you covertly. I've noticed a few times. And sometimes they follow openly, like in your face, kind of send you a message, hey, we know who you are, we know where you are, and then we're right next to you, and we can do anything to you at any time. And that is a complete stress, okay?
I bet.
Second thing is there's a military-grade campaign against my channel to bring down viewers, bring down views, and to discredit me.
Wow.
I have hard proof. I'm not going to reveal it publicly, but I've been approached by certain people, and they gave me proof that that is happening, because there are people out there who are watching Russian propaganda. And, they gave me hard proof, okay? And I'm trying to survive, basically. It's been very tough physically for me. I've had, I can say, emotional breakdown. I took off 3 weeks off YouTube. I'm recovering now, almost back to normal. But prolonged stress, it's driving me nuts. Panic attacks, rage. I'm angry with no reason at anything, and that's perfectly normal under my circumstances. The doctors say that. And basically, I unplugged for a couple of weeks. I took a little vacation. I'm supervised medically, but yeah, I'm feeling what they're doing to me. And as one person said, he said, look, if you miss one live stream, that's their win. If you don't feel well and you don't deliver as well as you could, that's their win. If you miss 1 week, if you're 1 week off internet, off YouTube, that's their win. And they're trying to win. They're trying as much as they can. So basically, that's my story in short.
Thank you very much for sharing this. This is very personal, and you are so open. You are such an impressive man. I admire that.
I just want to let you know what, Christoph, that's very scary. Don't think that I'm just like a super giant sitting there.
No, you're
very
not.
Scary, very intimidating, and
but
I'm scared.
I know, but you know what? Let's talk about the divine protection, about God, because you make always in your live streams, you pray with your audience, and you are a Christian. You believe in God, in Jesus Christ, as I do, and that's a thing we have in common, and that's a thing the other ones, they don't have. And when you read the Bible, then you see that those who are on the side of God, they will win, because God is the Almighty. He is probably, people now think we are crazy, but that's really what we know and what we believe, and we can have some. I mean, just when we talk about God, maybe we can pray together here right now for you, if you like. What do you think about that?
I'd love that. I finish my live streams with prayers, and I don't think people think we're crazy if we talk about that. I am a very normal person. I'm not fanatic. I've been a believer all my life. So but it's just it's normal. It's not crazy,
And
but
that's
it's to me
because
it's absolutely normal.
that, to me too, fantastic, because God is there, and he is almighty. So people could ask, yeah, but if God would be there, then why all those evil things happen? Why is there war, and why doesn't God stop this war? Yeah,
We're
we know.
given free will.
Yeah.
We people are given free will. This is why it's all happening. We make choices, but the thing is, we're gonna answer for the choices we make. We're not animals. We're human beings. Part of the divine.
Yes,
God
but
has created us at
yeah.
His image. He gave us ability to create, and then it's a lot to give, but it's a lot of responsibility as well. And then we shouldn't forget about that.
Yeah, and in the end, also suffering belongs also to believing. So Jesus Christ himself was the greatest example. He took also incredible suffer just for the sake of ourselves being saved from the evil, and also the sin. There are so horrible and cruel sins committed in these wars, and against you now, and against when they don't take life as valuable, they kill. They just throw people away as if they were garbage, which is a big sin. So I believe, and you believe too, I know, that in the end there will be the judge, and the people will be judged for what they do.
Christoph, I'd like to share a personal story. You mentioned Jesus Christ, making sacrifice his life for our sins. Well, I went to Israel. I've been to Israel quite a few times, and every time I go, I visit Jerusalem. And this summer, I went to Israel. The reason I went, I wanted to take my son there. It would be the first time for him, the holy place.
Wow.
And I went to Jerusalem for the entire day, the very center, the citadel, whatever, the city itself, the old city. And we walked Via Dolorosa. It's basically the way Jesus was taken to Pontius Pilatus' house, and then he was prosecuted there, and then he was holding the cross and bringing into the Golgotha and all of that. And let me tell you something. That place is very. It changes. At least it changes me. Every time I go there, I find something very personal. Like I'm full of anger, and this is not secret. I was chewed up and spat out by my country, and it's not so much about Putin. I understand the government. I understand their agenda. I understand the rules. If it was just Putin and his state, I would understand. But the thing is, Russian people stood silently and were looking the other way when I, along with millions of other Russian men, were forced out of Russia. Okay? When the mobilization was announced, then those who didn't want to take guns and go and kill Ukrainians at the order of Putin, they left the country. And the Russians stood still and silent, and they were just looking other way. And now they're saying 4 years later, oh, why our lives have become so much worse. And then, and then there's so much anger on me, at least that there was. And, I'm a human being. I'm a sinner, right? And this is a sin, obviously, to have anger. And I went to Via Dolorosa, and as I was walking, taking steps Jesus took, 2,000 years ago when he was holding his cross, he knew that he was going to be crucified. But then he gave his life so our sins would be forgiven. Okay? And then going Via Dolorosa helped me with that anger against Russian people.
Wow.
Okay, isn't that a miracle? My personal miracle, okay? I feel so much more content with Russians. I am ready to forgive them, okay? That's God working in my life through different events, through different travels, through different experiences. Okay, but this is it. I mean, how can you deny the existence of God? And you can see these things happen in your life.
Yeah,
Okay, so
absolutely.
that's very obvious to me.
Thanks very
But
much for
anyway,
sharing this story. And I think also the fact that you recover now from this fear and this anger and this being threatened, you carry on. I just wanted to tell you, God protects you and He holds you in His hands, and you will be safe. And that is what I tell you. In the name of, let me say it, in the name of God, He will protect you. And let's pray.
Thank you, Christoph.
Let's pray.
Yes.
Yes. Dear God, dear Jesus, I'm so glad talking with Konstantin, and also that we have a very special and very personal talk today, where we also mention our belief and mention you, and you, Jesus Christ. You have taken all the suffering of the world, and you took all on yourself, and you sacrificed yourself, and that those people who believe in you, that they will be saved from this horrible, cruel world. And on the other hand, it's also such a beautiful world you created, and let's get it back. Help that this horrible war will stop, and that your justice may come. And I want also to pray personally for Konstantin, that you protect him, and that you will hold him in your hands, and that you will keep the enemies away from him, and that you let the enemies fail, and that they will struggle, and that they will fall down, that they will understand that they are doing a criminal, horrible sin, that they will repent, and that they will break down and understand that you, God, that you are there. And after the death, after somebody is dead, he will not be away. He will stand in front of you, and he will have to say what he has done. And then the judge, you are the judge, Jesus. You will judge the people. So it's better to believe in you before. I don't want to make fear, but you are good, but you are also almighty. Thank you very much. Thanks for that we can talk together on this medium here, on this platform, YouTube, and that we can have that we belong to you, Jesus Christ. And thank you very much. Amen.
Amen. Beautiful prayer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much too.
Very emotional. Thank you. This is the first time I pray after someone. I usually say prayer, so it was very, very good. It's actually it's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thanks God. Thanks Jesus. Konstantin, it was also very emotional for me. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you.
I say bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. The next talk is closer to July, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Thank you.
Stop this one.